Hi, it's Stephen Tako, and welcome back to another episode of Tako Talk. I'm here with my friend Bob Donnell, and Bob, thanks so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Bob's got history, background working with kids that are being bullied, and so Bob, just want to talk with you a bit. First of all, let us know how it is that you got involved in the whole anti-bullying world, and what laid your heart to follow this.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here first. One of the experiences in my life that led me to really become a champion for people who are being bullied was being bullied myself. I was in high school, and I was being raised by a single mom, and during that time, it was kind of just trying to find my own way. She was sick and in and out of the hospital, and so I was trying to find my own way. But in the midst of that, we couldn't afford to live in really nice neighborhoods, so we ended up living in a city called El Monte, and it's a great little city, but it was gang ridden, and a lot of people that were just not the best sorts to be hanging out with, and yet that was kind of my peer group, and so. Boy, I remember being chased home, from school. And
what was the main reason? Why do you think that they were bullying you and chasing you?
Because they could. They viewed me as a weaker person. Maybe they were Hispanic and I was white. Maybe it was because in the area I lived there was several gang members in the area. So literally walking to school or walking home from school, I was an easy target. And I just remember, coming home and locking my door really quick and just staying inside and not even going out to play because I was just afraid that one of those guys would show up and or people would invite me to something and I'd be afraid to go because it'd be like, well, what if they're there? And I remember hating that feeling and yet feeling like there was just nothing I could do. And
this is just in high school, or
no? This was in junior high and high school.
Junior high and high school.
It really didn't start in elementary. It started in junior high.
I found Bob that there are so many people that their suffering starts in junior high.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a lot in elementary as well, but
sure.
But for some reason there was something about junior high age that people start really noticing who's an easy target, who's a little bit different, and so you were an easy target. Now, do you think it was because you were different, or did you not stand up for yourself, or how did you handle it?
Those are great questions because I think that by and large it was because of who I was being. I stood out because I was a different race than some of the gang members and things like that. Yeah. But it was because of who I was being. It's kind of like when you hear about people who are trying to prepare themselves to not be victims, especially with women out in public, right. That they teach them to walk a certain way, to hold themselves a certain way, to really be present about the situation. And I don't think at that time I was capable or understood how to do that. So I probably walked in very timid and which they played upon,
right,
or preyed upon. And I think that was probably one of the biggest things. But obviously I stood out. There was a lot of people that were just a different belief system and a different understanding and being raised in that neighborhood. And I was being raised, kind of being brought in. I went to 6 different high schools. I went to probably 15, 20 different elementary schools. Wow. Bounced around a lot, but tough. Always within kind of the same area or there. And so I was always the new kid.
Yeah, it's tough to meet long-term friends that can be your allies when you haven't been around for very long.
Yeah.
Now, so you were a victim yourself of being bullied. Now, moving forward into your adult life, how has that manifested your choices?
Stephen, the thing is my mom died when I was in high school, and I just kind of went to that point. Thank you. And I went to that point where I said, okay, I really want to become a peer counselor. So while she was in transition, while she was dying of cancer, I became a peer counselor. And I think, I thought it was for helping other people. Really, I think it was for helping me. I think it was helping me figure out how do I deal with this that's about to happen. Since I didn't know my dad, I'm about to be an orphan. And I'm dealing with my mom, having shots in the middle of the night and pain. And how do you deal with that at 15, 16, 17? And so I became a peer counselor. But what that opened up was the opportunity for me to understand how do you reach inside and help people.
So what age did you become a peer counselor?
Peer counselor I became at 16.
16 years old. Look at I just want to share with the audience, you know, it's like, here we got somebody that's been victimized, he's been bullied, his dad's, he didn't know his dad, and his mom dies, he's 16 years old.
Yeah.
How many kids do you know that all of a sudden, you know, at that point you got a choice in life, you know, it's like you can go the negative route where you yourself get into drugs, you know, I mean, there's a huge epidemic of meth, cocaine, heroin, you know, because kids want to feel better about themselves, right?
Yeah.
So you can go that route, or you can go and volunteer somewhere and be. I'm just getting chills right now. I mean, it's so awesome to know people like Bob, that 16 years old decides to be a peer counselor and help other kids deal with this. And like you said, you know, you're benefiting from that as well.
Huge, yeah.
I mean, how many teachers, you know, there's people that are out there that
So
do
true.
things just because. Part of it, I mean, they're learning themselves.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
you're learning it, you're teaching it, but you're also learning things about your students.
Right.
So, all right, so fascinating,
Yeah.
amazing. Okay,
So I became a peer counselor, and then at 18, I founded a nonprofit organization working with kids in crisis, suicide prevention, drug addictions, you know, all of that type of stuff. And again, I'd taken a lot of the experiences that I had, and I thought, you know, a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing in people, like you mentioned, like the pain that people are trying to escape, maybe using heroin or something just to have the euphoric feeling. What I realized was a lot of the people that were dealing with drugs or suicide or acting out at home and those kind of things were because of an underlying current, that there was some kind of pain that they were trying to deal with. And some chose to be angry and act out on anger. Some chose to be reclusive and be totally isolated. Some just decided to start taking drugs or alcohol to numb the pain. And I just really... I had a heart for them, because I thought, you know, I know what that feels like to walk in and not feel like you fit.
Right.
And I know what that feels like, and I started just thinking about how do I help people in that place. And through my nonprofit, it was a great experience. I had a board of directors of psychologists, psychiatrists, marriage family therapists, sergeant of narcotics for LA County PD at 19.
They're all looking at this kid, this teenager.
You know, it was so funny, because I had one of the kids I was working with was acting out at home and doing drugs and stuff, and his stepdad happened to be an attorney, and the stepdad came to me and says, we need to have a talk. And I thought, at 18, when you're getting a call by an attorney, you think something's wrong.
Right.
And he said, you're doing a great job.
I think at any age.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's true. And he said, you're doing a great job with my son. I think you need to play a bigger game. I said, what does that look like? He says, well, I think you need to set up a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And I went, huh? But he's the one that really guided me and instructed me and showed me how to put together a board of directors. And he was the first one on the board of directors. And you know, those types of things were really powerful for me, because it instilled a belief system in me. And then having the training of having on-call people 24/7 that were experts in their field, saying, yeah, I believe in you enough to do the work for free. Huge.
Well, you know, Bob, I all these experiences leaded up to the man that you are today. Now, unfortunately, you had a daughter that passed away at 16 years old.
No, when she was 3.
When she was 3. Okay, so she was 3 years old, and so you started thinking about, you know, your purpose in life, you know, and your mission and how you're giving back. Now, we talked a little bit earlier in the break about how you see like there's a cycle. So we've got a few minutes left in the show, and I just wanted to have you share a little bit about the cycle, what it is that you're doing today, that you see a cycle of kids that are being bullied, who then turn around and bully, and maybe some advice how kids can kind of like break that cycle.
Well, thanks, because I think that that's a key point that people need to understand, that it is a cycle. And just because we think somebody's been bullied, it doesn't mean they're going to go out and bully, but they may act out in a completely different way. And so my study in human behavior has really been to figure out what makes someone do something or not do something. And so, you know, we've all heard the different things about pain versus pleasure and all that other stuff.
Right.
But the bottom line is this, that people are going to do a myriad of different things for a myriad of different reasons. And so we don't have to sit there and say, that person is going to become violent. What we have to do is say, what is going to be the outcome of the violence in their life on them? Because they may not act out violently. They may act out by just taking drugs and alcohol, but they may end up killing themselves in the process. or they may end up just isolating and become reclusive, which all of those scenarios are going to be bad. And so how do we help each person? Well, we have to understand that each person operates from a different level. What I call Mastering Your Inner Game. It's a book that I wrote, but it's Mastering Your Inner Game on how do you master that inner game so that you can support the actions that you really want in your life. And when we're dealing with a teenager, they don't have a long-term approach. They don't really know what they want in their life a lot of times. So we're trying to lay out this foundation for the future, and they're just trying to figure out how do we survive today. Right. And so it's about getting into them and helping them understand that there is a future, but also right now is important. And so how do we help them understand what's happening to them has a direct effect on how they behave. And when we can help them draw that correlation, we help a lot more people.
Now, what's the name of your book again?
Mastering Your Inner Game.
And where can people find it?
Amazon's fine.
Okay. So, all right. Well, that's awesome. And you said you've seen a lot of kids that turn around who have been bullied, and then they just go ahead and find easy targets as well to start bullying.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that we do about this show is that kids, we want to make sure that any kids out there that are watching this, that you can break the cycle.
Yes.
If you just reach out and get some help, talk to counselors at school, talk to your parents if you have a good relationship with your parents, somebody that you can trust, and just be able to realize, that we all have an inner person inside, that is if you're being bullied, that means you're hurting. You're hurting inside, and you can choose which way you want to go. You can go out and bully some other kids if that makes you feel good, but it's not. It's a temporary fix. Just like the drugs that these people are taking, it's all a temporary fix, and it's not good for your soul. It's not good for your heart. It's not good for anybody.
Right.
Give us a couple of ideas with all the experiences that you've had working with kids now, years of experience. What are some of the examples that kids can take right now so that they can stop the vicious cycle of bullying?
The first thing I think is just to help, get yourself to a point where you realize this is not an isolated incident. It's not about you. It's really about the other person and what they've been going through, how they're dealing with, and the underlying current. So realize that this isn't necessarily about you, and you're not the only person. The second is to really find out how can you surround yourself with a different element of people, a different type of people. Jim Rohn said you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with, but the principle of that is, who are you really spending your time with? Have you hand selected people, or have people just been there because of default? And so really selecting specific people. And one of the ways I always tell kids, and I always tell adults as well, is look at where you want to be, look at the type of person that you want to be. And this is the core principle is, look at the absolute best version of yourself. If you could define the absolute best version of yourself, what would it take to get there? And then what type of people are already operating in that place? And then really start surrounding yourself with those type of people. And it doesn't have to be anything other than that they just operate differently. They think differently. They behave differently. And then what you'll find is they're probably hanging out with different people as well that will then in turn help you as well.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. If you keep hanging around the same core people that you're hanging around, you're going to end up seeing the same type of results.
Sure.
And it's tough sometimes to all of a sudden tell somebody, hey, I just can't hang out with you anymore. I don't like what you're doing. Right. I don't approve of what you're doing. We can still, I can still care for you, but we really can't be friends until you stop doing this. Let's say you witness a friend that's bullying somebody else, and if you're okay with that, you're just kind of standing by and watching it, you're not doing anything about it. It almost makes you like a bully by default.
You're a support group for the bully.
Yeah, exactly, a support group. And so you want to start thinking about who you're hanging out with. Your 5 closest friends, are pretty much a good example of who you are.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So thanks. I think that's awesome advice.
Awesome.
So thanks again so much for coming out and sharing. And is there a website where we can?
Sure. Yeah, you can go to bob@bobdonnell.com. And that will give all my information and background and all of that there.
So that's your email, bob@bobdonnell.com, and then the
I'm
website,
sorry, bobdonnell.com.
bobdonnell.com. So awesome. All right, well, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Stephen.
it. And you guys, thanks for tuning in to Tako Talk. And you guys have a fantastic rest of your day.